So, very good morning to Tartu Trend Days. My name is Jiri Strouhal. I am the head of accounting research group at Tallinn School of Business, the Department of Business Administration, where I am in the position of visiting professor. I'm also full professor at two Czech universities, Czech Chemical University and Skoda Auto University. In terms of mine today's relatively short 15 minutes presentation, I will focus on ESG reporting, which is now very topical from the perspective of various stakeholders. So maybe let me do some intro. So generally, what it is, sustainability reporting. So basically, this one offers a holistic view and approach in terms of companies' impact on all those ESG items, meaning environmental, society, and own governance structures. And basically, why it was established that it really extends far, far beyond financial disclosures, for which we are quite used to when reading annual reports or basically even just financial statements. So from this perspective, we may consider the sustainability reporting as kind of strategic tool which enables businesses to communicate their sustainability journey to their various stakeholders, and also these companies can affirm their commitment to sustainable development. And also because in terms of financial part of this conference, also we may deal also with ESG risks and how to hedge all those risks. So in terms of that aim of sustainability reporting, it's the view on corporate performance, detriments to sustainable development and its contribution, how company manages its resources, response to climate change, mostly in E factors of ESG reporting, ensure fair labor practices from the perspective of S, and as well upholds corporate governance standard, compliance, etc., from the perspective of G part of ESG reporting. So here you can see it perfectly structured within this very nice picture. How to prepare the sustainability report? So basically it has these five major stages. So first of all, to plan and define the scope of the report. Very important, it's to precisely map and determine our real stakeholders and also to engage them because they are very important for this part. Very challenging, it's data collection and analysis because we are dealing afterwards with big data issue. And afterwards, of course, we have to provide such report and it shall be somehow verified. So assurance as a last step, probably from auditors. In terms of the major challenges, so I guess the major challenge is the data collection and verification of all those data, because those data are from diverse sources. We have vast amount of all those data. So the task is really whether they are really reliable and accurate, because in case we have unreliable and not very precise data, so of course afterwards our report will look like what it will be, and it will be super useless from the practical point of view. Currently, to certain extent, there shall be mentioned as a second challenge the lack of standardization, that it may really vary significantly between industries and organizations. So it's quite hard for various stakeholders afterwards to evaluate and compare these ESG performance of various businesses. Hopefully in the near future, considering that, let's say, the group of ESG reporting companies would be bigger and bigger, that afterwards the standardization would be slightly better than in these early days. Another one, difficulty in quantifying impacts, because something it's really less and less tangible or basically intangible. So it's quite hard to quantify these impacts. So sometimes those approaches might be kind of simplistic ones. Also, what we need to focus that we are balancing resource requirements and transparency with competitive consideration. Of course, everything is about sensitive data, and from this perspective, certain companies, especially when targeting to small or sometimes even medium-sized ones, they wouldn't be willing to provide these data as considering them as strategic information to potential competitors. So let's shift towards the key stakeholders in sustainability reporting. So definitely, first of all, we have to mention all corporations. Generally, we may tell that it may enhance corporate reputation. Also, it may improve operational efficiency. Despite these days, companies see sometimes in ESG the enemy of the company, that we have to do everything. We would be punished in case we wouldn't do so. But generally, it's not such bad as it's sometimes promoted. Second one, of course, investors and financial markets, that we have to disclose the risk management practices. I strongly believe that in the future, even the derivative market will react more and more, that there would be some ESG derivatives. So that might be working well with sustainability initiatives. And of course, we have to deal with long-term run, so it has the potential for long-term value creation. Public impact, basically all those reports potentially may serve as kind of a window into the corporate operations. So there might be vital some insights into social and environmental impacts. In terms of customers, especially the new or relatively new Z generation, it's more and more searching and seeking sustainable products and services. So therefore, companies from this perspective may prioritize sustainability. Governmental and regulatory bodies in terms of ensuring transparency, comparability, and let's say non-governmental organization from the perspective that they are kind of advocates for change, highlighting areas of concern. In terms of sustainability frameworks and timeline, actually, it's not something very brand new. Here you can see that it has some nice, almost 30 years history, starting from 1997 with Global Reporting Initiative. Despite the major development was done, let's say, within the last 15 years, that in 2011 was established the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board. What's very important for these days, that in 2014 was issued non-financial reporting directive, mostly affecting large listed companies. And actually, these are also those pioneers who are obliged these days to prepare those first ESG reports. 2018, I have to mention the development of EU taxonomy. 2019, disclosure regulation, SFDR. And from the later ones, 2021 CSRD, Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. It's also crucial for the future part of this presentation. So in terms of the implementation and compliance timeline, actually what I have already mentioned, all those companies who were under that non-financial reporting directive shall prepare their first obligatory ESG reports for the period starting 1st January 2024. So from this perspective, we are really looking forward to first reports which are due at the very beginning of 2025. Considering that we are dealing with listed companies, I believe that it will be within the first quarter of this year. Very huge shift and development in this area will be done next year, because since next year, all large companies shall report on ESG. So this will make this group really wide. In terms of listed SMEs, actually there is kind of opt-out from the reporting from January 2026, so they may wait 2 more years and start the reporting from 2028. So here it really differs whether the first listed SMEs report will be available from 2027 or 2029. And actually, from the period of 2028, even all non-EU companies which fits to this ESG regulation shall prepare their ESG reports. I guess here it's quite crucial to define what's the large company because, as we know, all those regulation varies. That something is defined by EU, something is defined on the national level. So what it is. Basically, I needn't to deal so much about companies which are under that non-financial reporting directive because these companies are already in charge of preparation of ESG reports. So as already have mentioned, those shall be publicly listed, basically having more than 500 employees. And in terms of some finance measures, balance sheet total shall be over 25 million euros and net turnover over 50 million. As per large companies, they have to fulfill two out of these three criteria. So generally, balance sheet and net turnover, it's very same like for those publicly listed companies under a non-financial reporting directive, but employing more than 250 employees. So here really you can see that it fits to too many companies. What might be a bit discussable are those listed SMEs that, of course, it varies from country to country, that not many small and medium-sized businesses are listed ones. So generally, also those, they are supposed to fulfill two out of three following criteria. But here you can see that they are significantly lowered. It's just 1/5, basically 20% of all those criteria for large companies. The basically balance sheet over 5 million euros, net turnover 10 millions, and more than 50 people. So in case we are dealing with listed SME, I guess that all listed SMEs will easily fulfill these criteria. And actually, in terms of that non-EU companies, these are either those who are subject potentially to that non-financial reporting directive, or they might be understood as large companies, listed companies, or generally non-EU companies with some branch or subsidiary in the European Union. So basically from 2028, significant number of companies will fit into this scope of ESG reporting. Generally, in terms of European sustainability reporting standards, so ESRSs, also on the other hand, we may mention IFRS S1 and S2 issued by ISB. So here there are two major cross-cutting standards. So ESRS 1 on general principles and ESRS 2 on general disclosures. And afterwards, in terms of those topical standards, 5 are focusing on environment, 4 on social part, and 1 general on governance part. So E1 to E5, where basically E1 is on climate change, E5 on resource use and circular economy, considering the location of Estonia, of course, ESRS E3 on water and marine resources. Generally, I guess what's relatively well fulfilled by a majority of companies are S standards. So, for example, S1 on own workforce or S2 on workers within the value chain. And governance itself is the separate one. What about SMEs itself or themselves? Generally, for them, there is expected that there will be finally developed two type of standards. So one is for listed companies, so LSME, and second one, voluntary one. Because the point is that majority of SMEs will be part of the value chain of either listed company or large companies. So that's why these large companies will ask them for certain information in terms of the whole value chain reporting. So this is quite crucial. Actually, in terms of the current status, how it looks like with these two sets of SME standards, they were drafted in January, so it's publicly visible through EFRAG website. Basically, by this month, November 2024, EFRAG shall provide final advice to European Commission about these two standards, and generally these standards shall be effective and applicable from January 2026, because those days all those listed SMEs are supposed to prepare their non-financial reports, ESG reports, despite there is the 2 years possible opt-out. Now, within last 2-3 slides, I will focus on current researches, what we are currently developing at our accounting research group in Tallinn, from the ESG reporting perspective. So first one, actually led by my colleague Tarmo Kadak. This one is focused on educational and training perspective. The task is to map the knowledge about ESG issues between finance industry workers in selected 5 countries, France, Estonia, Malta, Slovenia, and Cyprus. Within the next few slides, I will show you the results. And second one is the joint project between Czechia and Estonia, dealing with the positioning of SMEs and stakeholders on ESG reporting. So it's the project between Tallinn and Skoda Auto University. And actually this one, it's led by myself. In terms of that educational research, this one, it's more quantitatively orientated. So there was a link with survey which was submitted to 1,000 potential participants who are employed in a finance branch in those relevant countries. Actually, as we know, it's always challenging with those surveys in terms of response rate. So here we can see around 160 valid responses, mostly from France and Estonia. And in terms of the population, majority of those participants, they have the master degree with at least mostly 2 to 5 years of professional work experience, mostly working in ESG or CSR area, marketing or PR, and in terms of others, mostly financial analysts and specialists. What's quite interesting is that considering that those participants are working in the finance industry, and let's say bank, it's one of the major stakeholder of ESG reports, not so many participants were very familiar with ESG regulation, considering that the best was with SFRD around 40%, in terms of ESG reporting standards and regulations below 40%. And what's even worse, that in terms of applicable digital finance regulation, for example, MiFID and others, below even 30%. So this is relatively low. Also, we asked them about their perception about knowledge and skills, or how they would like to rate themselves about their ESG knowledge. So, of course, those results are affected by the fact how they see themselves. It's not something what was really verified by third party. Actually, the maximum result was 10 points, minimum, of course, 0, 1. So here you can see it's rather below average, that basically the best rating has the understanding of principles of ESG investing, and also the ability to communicate those insights to clients and evaluate the ESG focused investment opportunities. But generally, all other stuff, it's below 5, so below average. I guess one of the worst one is the ability to implement AI and machine learning for ESG applications, considering that I strongly believe that artificial intelligence would be strongly used for developing of ESG reports. In terms of that CIMA project, so here We are rather following the qualitative approach, and the task is to prepare and develop some structured interviews with stakeholders. In terms of CIMA, what's behind it's the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants based in London. So in terms of those stakeholders, we are supposed to prepare 10 interviews with companies representative, only one large one, and 9 SME companies. In terms of auditors, we approach two audit companies, but outside Big Four, because of Big Four, we expect there that that would be the major group who will verify all those ESG reports or how it's seen by some, let's say, up till top 10 audit companies. Banks we can see as a perspective user of ESG reports. And last but not least, I have to mention also the positioning of either regulator or professional chamber. So, for example, chamber of or association of small and medium-sized enterprises. This is the chamber what we approach in Czech Republic. Also, the second task of this project is to update accounting education curricula in universities because of this ESG task and topic. So these changes are done both in Skoda Auto University as well as in Tallinn. And also there was the request to update the Czech accounting certification scheme for professional accountants. Actually, here it's slightly easier because I'm the author of the scheme. So I just proposed there are some changes for the committee for certification, and actually the new or updated modules with ESG curriculum will start from February of next year. That now my colleagues they are preparing some new educational materials for that one, and actually this is also the task of the project to help somehow SMEs, especially with ESG reporting, to develop some tools, templates, etc. And last but not least, also some executive summary for stakeholders. So basically, this is in brief the message about the ESG reporting, which is very topical these days. So thank you very much for your kind listening. I'm very sorry that I cannot make it in person to visit Tartu this time. So I hope that I will be part of this event in the future and will have the opportunity to visit the other. Thank you very much.